Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade this summer, abortion access has become a major political issue, and Anne Marie has a look at where things stand after this week's election.
Well, Nancy, abortion was actually on the ballot in 5 states. 2 states had amendments that would restrict access. 3 states aimed to add constitutional protections for reproductive health. Michigan, Vermont, and California voters all enshrined constitutional protections into law. Meanwhile, the attempt in Kentucky to deny constitutional protections for abortions was defeated. And it's leaning that way in Montana for their amendment to require new restrictions on abortion access and possible criminal charges for providers. Of course, that means that as of now, 21 states have abortion protections in place, while 14 have banned or mostly banned abortion access. The debates over abortion access and legal challenges, they are not likely to go away anytime soon, since it remains a top priority for voters. Our CBS News poll this midterm election found that nationally, it was the second most important issue to voters this midterm election. And in the highly competitive race in Pennsylvania for the Senate seat, it was the most important issue, outranking inflation, which was the most important issue in every other battleground state. And overall, 61% of voters were dissatisfied with the overturn of Roe. So one other consequence of the 2022 midterm elections is that in certain states like North Carolina, Republicans failed to win a veto-proof majority. So Democratic governors will continue to be able to block new abortion restrictions. Nancy.
And a lot to delve in here. For more on this, let's bring in Alexis McGill Johnson. She is the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood. Alexis, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Can you explain a little bit the strategy behind victory for abortion rights, especially in a traditional red state like Kentucky? You said that one in particular was surprising.
Well, look, I think that what we have seen consistently since the decision is a level of outrage, right, among women, among people of color, among young people, like really driving a conversation that actually I would say is across party lines, it's across generational lines. And, while Kansas had its moment, which is also another conservative state, in August to express its outrage, November 8th was the first time so many Americans actually could speak to what was really frustrating about that decision. And I think in Kentucky, when you have anti-abortion activists putting on an amendment to essentially say the state does not protect you, that the state constitution doesn't protect access to abortion, people got very frustrated in that moment. And I think they were able to make those decisions to stop that amendment from going through, as well as, connect the dots between, what else was happening across the country.
What about Montana? They had the Born Alive referendum. What happened there, and why do you think it happened the way it did?
Again, I think this is another, ballot initiative. There were 5 ballot initiatives. 3 of them were abortion rights, sponsored in terms of enshrining the right to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. But Montana, like Kentucky, were put on by people who were just trying to draw these incredibly extreme examples. There's just no such thing, right? Where what they were arguing in Montana was that even after conception, that a doctor would have to essentially try to keep, a fetus alive. Right. And I think that people just really understood the fact that this is, they don't want lawmakers in this decision. They don't want, lawmakers in the exam room trying to help them, make these decisions for them. And I think that's actually what happened, and why the voters in Montana said, this is not a thing. You're just trying to use this as a distraction in order to turn people out. And that's actually not how we actually experience decisions around abortion or decisions around our pregnancies.
Mm-hmm. Looking nationally, what did this election cycle really say about the importance of women's votes? And also, do you think Republicans underestimated how important this would be? Because so much of the conversation going into it, of course, was about inflation and the economy. And that was very important as well. But it really seems like there was a message sent here by a lot of voters.
Yeah, I think it was actually really surprising to us in the last few weeks before the election when people wanted us to pivot. They wanted to stop having a conversation around abortion and only focus on economy and inflation as if we're single issue voters, right? As if we don't actually connect the dots between, the fact that when you decide to become a parent, that in itself can be an economic decision for someone. You have to decide, where are you in your career? Where are you in terms of your where you want your family to be, knowing that most people who seek access to abortion are already mothers. And so I do think that they, both parties underestimated in some ways how significant abortion continued to be. And they also didn't take into account that this was going to be the first time since the Dobbs decision that we had to express our outrage and betrayal. And that's what we did over and over again. When we were out at rallies across the country, I'd ask people to go back to that moment that they felt when they heard the Dobbs decision. Everybody remembers where they were, the betrayal, the outrage, the frustration. And that's what we saw come out November 8th.
So the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe v. Wade said, we're going to bounce it back to the states. The states should make that decision. So now the states we're hearing what people in individual states, how they feel about this. Does that mean this is over? Does this end?
No, not at all. I mean, we've also seen during that same period, Lindsey Graham come out and say we should have a national abortion ban and try to get many of these lawmakers, including Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, who is the senator there, who said they would sponsor a national abortion ban. So, look, this has never really been about banning. It has been about banning abortion or a states' rights, right? It has been about power and control and consolidating that power and control over our bodies. And so I think, look, we're still holding out, the slightest bit of hope that we can get a pro-choice majority in the Congress, and that we will be able to, as the administration said, codify Roe into law. And if we can't do it now, we will continue to fight that to 2024. But the reality is we're still going to have to fight state by state on all these issues.
So but as you were answering the question, you sort of mixed up your words, but I think that's a good point to jump off of. So you said, it's never been about state rights, but before that you sort of mistakenly said it's not about abortion. Do you think that people who voted with these different ballot initiatives saw it as a conversation that is bigger than abortion?
Absolutely. I think that people saw, I think the closing argument being about democracy, right? And that when you take away bodily autonomy, when you take away people's ability to control their own reproductive freedom, you are in essence taking away a voice. You are in essence taking away a freedom that we've held on to now for 50 years. And they saw that linked very directly to democracy. They saw that linked to many other things that have been introduced over the last years around access to contraception, the implications for IVF. We saw it in the Supreme Court opinion around marriage equality and and other issues. And so I think people are starting to put all of those things together and saying, what kind of world do I want to live in? Do I want to live in a world where I get to actually make decisions, or do I have to live in a world where politicians get to make these decisions for me?
Alexis McGill Johnson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.